Welcome to Two Guys.
Hey, Gil.
and an MBA.
There was a story about when they were trying to carve out peace between Egypt and Israel way back when, and it was a 7 day war or something. I think when the whole Arab world invaded, and it was a disaster, and they brought them to, I think, Camp David, and each side just didn't want to give up. And then, you know, I'm gonna simplify this, and people are gonna hate me, but someone figured out, well, let's just find out what the interest is about this war. Like, what are you interested in? So Egypt said, like, I don't want, I think something about we don't want, Israel invading their land. Israel said we don't want Egypt invading our land. But when they had a discussion, what they came up with is that something about Israel wanting to put their flag there, but Egypt just wanted, to have the territory. It was just a weird thing. It was such a minor thing, and I'm going to look it up after, that kind of solved the problem. And I think that's what I'm trying to say is that Putin has his position, and Ukraine has their position, and everybody's being positional. And unless somebody figures out what the interest is, and there's going to be no ground. It's just not going to happen. Um, and I think that's the challenge right now, because one side thinks they're losing something, the other side thinks they're losing something. But I don't, I think somebody needs to sit down and say, what is your true interest? Like, I know for Crimea, Ukrainian territories, I think Russia went in 2014, and the
Yeah.
Western world didn't do anything. They said, okay, and they left it. Now they're trying to go back and say, well, we want that back. So you got to start to, like, sit down, and maybe some adults have some discussions here, because when two sides are fighting, like two guys fighting in the schoolyard, you need somebody to just separate it, and then just sit down and have discussions about interest-based negotiation. What are you really interested in, right? Well, we want territorially to keep Crimea. Okay, if territorially, we'll give it to you, and we'll let Russia sail their fleet out of the deep sea ports, and they'll pay you for it. Whatever discussion should be had, it has to come from an interest base, and it's almost like what Russia's interested in is not what Ukraine is interested in, and they might be able to give. And what Ukraine's interested in, Russia's not interested in. So I don't know. I
I,
mean, I
I,
see everybody talking. I don't know I don't think it's.
I have an idea. It's an apt analogy. You're talking about Israel and Egypt first. And if you look back in the recent Middle Eastern history from the 20th century, which I know a little bit about, uh, most of the wars that precipitated following the formation of Israel, 1948, 1967 through the 70s, a large actor in the wars was Egypt, because Egypt had the largest military, had a lot of resources, has the most people of most Arab countries, and that period of war and instability kind of ended in 1979 when Jimmy Carter, who a lot of people pan as an American president, but actually did get a lot done for the Middle East, uh, sat down with Sadat and the Israeli leader and made a peace deal, and you saw a lot of the war stop, and that has held till now. And actually, Egypt is still under martial law to this day, I think. Uh, the point being, the solution I see is bribery, because that's what happened. The United States basically pays Israel several billion dollars a year in military subsidies and direct cash payments, and they do a similar amount to Egypt. And they've been doing that for, like, oh, what, almost 40, 50 years now. So I think you might see something similar that will need to be, like, I could see that as a solution. Let's just pay off both sides. But I mean, the U.S. isn't in an economic position to do that. And it wasn't a regional kind of war that threatened world stability and, crucially, oil and
Yeah.
oil prices like it did then. So I'm not sure you see the incentive for these big payoffs, but that could, because the peace between Egypt and Israel has held even through this Gaza conflict. Egypt wasn't letting Palestinian refugees that are
Yeah.
getting bombed back across the border, and they took heat for it from both sides, from the West and from the Arab media, for not letting those war refugees in. Um, yeah, the
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
about crime. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, so I had to figure out what I was saying. So interest-based negotiation in Israel was a classic case of interest-based. So they were fighting each other, and it was a complete stalemate. And then when they sat down and talked to them about the interest, Egypt's interest for the Sinai, they just wanted sovereignty, meaning they wanted to put their flag there. That's it. And Israel's interest is they wanted security and preventing Egypt from deploying forces on that border.
A military buffer. Yeah.
That's right. So one just wants to plant the flag. The other is concerned about, I don't want your military. So when they got to that, they actually demilitarized the zone. They sued for a sort of peace at Camp David, I believe. But it took like sitting down and just saying, what is it? What is it you're really interested in? And I'm not. Listen, I think I could probably go in there and sit down and talk to them because right now everybody's confrontational. And, when you have two forces meeting like this, there is no movement. One's got to give, the other's got to give. I am not defending Vladimir Putin. Okay. He comes from a time and era that, he is ruthless, he's cold blooded. But beyond all that, you've got to sit down. It's like Bill Maher going into the Trump cave, right? You got to go into the cave. You got to go talk to your enemy and find out. And then you come out a little bit more enlightened. But the other thing you come out with is a solution or a middle ground. And, this war has been going on a long time. I don't know what Donald Trump's tactic is, but I think he will bribe everybody somehow. Um, Give them some of his meme coin. I don't know.
Please consider subscribing below.
Thank you for being with us. Please leave your comments, feedback, what you think about us, and see you in the next podcast. Bye.